He promised me the whole world, but I discovered his second family in a gynecologist's office. What happened next changed my life forever. My name is Christina Harrison. That morning, I woke up with a heavy feeling. Something unpleasant was going to happen today. I felt it with all my skin. My husband Michael left for a business trip yesterday, leaving behind only the scent of expensive Dior Sauvage cologne and crumpled sheets on our king-size bed. In 5 years of marriage, I had not been able to get pregnant. This fact, like rust, ate away at our relationship. Michael was becoming colder, and his mother, Barbara, never missed a chance to remind me of my feminine inadequacy. "Christina, darling, maybe you should see other specialists. After all, Michael needs an heir," she said with feigned concern, sipping her Earl Grey during our family Sunday brunches. Today, a doctor's visit was looming. I sat in the kitchen of our penthouse in Manhattan, slowly stirring a cooling latte, thinking about how much our apartment had changed over the years. Stylish designer furniture by Herman Miller, huge panoramic windows overlooking Central Park, marble countertops. Everything expensive, perfect, but somehow deathly cold. Like our marriage. I ran my hand across the cold surface of the kitchen island. Once, Michael and I dreamed that our children would sit here, eat cereal, and laugh before school. Now it was just another unused surface in our perfect home. I couldn't have known that at that very morning in Brooklyn, a scene was unfolding that I would learn about in a few hours. A scene that would turn my whole life upside down. As Emily later told me herself, yes, we ended up talking later, but that's another story. That morning she was nervously straightening her H&M dress, preparing for the doctor's visit. Barbara sat in her small apartment, critically surveying the modest surroundings and observing the preparations of the future mother of her grandson. "Don't worry so much," Barbara said in her signature authoritative tone. "Dr. Catherine Miller is the best obstetrician gynecologist in New York. Michael paid for everything." Emily nodded, absent-mindedly stroking her rounded belly. She was thinking that soon everything would change. Michael promised that after the child was born, they would be officially together. Their own home in the suburbs, a wedding in the Hamptons, everything like in her dreams. "Barbara, are you sure his wife won't find out?" the girl asked quietly, nervously fiddling with the necklace, a gift from Michael for their anniversary. "Does it matter?" My mother-in-law replied coldly, adjusting her pearl earrings worth more than Emily's annual rent. "The main thing is that the grandson is healthy. Christina can't give Michael what our family needs anyway." Of course, back then I didn't know any of this. I was just finishing my latte and preparing for a doctor's appointment that would change my whole life, but not in the way I expected. The elite Manhattan Fertility and Women's Health Clinic on the Upper East Side greeted me with dim lighting and soft classical Vivaldi music. The marble floors reflected the neon lamps, creating a theatrical decor feel. I signed in with Nurse Jennifer, who already knew me by name, such a frequent client I had become over the years, and sat in a comfortable leather chair in the corridor. I scrolled through Instagram, looking at photos of happy families of my former classmates from Connecticut, children, dogs, picnics in the park, homemade pumpkin pies. Everything that once seemed so accessible and natural. About 10 minutes later, 2 women approached reception. I looked up and froze. Barbara, my mother-in-law. And next to her stood a young pregnant girl with large, naive, caramel-colored eyes and a mass of chestnut hair gathered in a careless bun. My heart raced faster. I recognize this girl. Her photo was on my husband's phone, which I accidentally saw a month ago. Then Michael quickly put away the phone and said it was a colleague from the marketing department. My mother-in-law noticed me and turned pale, so that her tan from a recent trip to the Bahamas became noticeably yellowish. For a few seconds, we just looked each other in the eyes, while the girl glanced around in confusion, not understanding the sudden tension. "Christina," Barbara finally squeezed out. "What are you doing here?" "The same as your companion," I calmly replied, rising from my seat. "Seeing the gynecologist?" I approached and looked closely at the girl. Instinctively, she covered her belly with her hands, as if protecting it. "Excuse me, do we know each other?" she asked quietly with a slight southern accent. "Not yet," I smiled. "But I know who you are. You're sleeping with my husband." Emily retreated a step back. Her face turned paler than the clinic's marble walls. Barbara tried to say something, but I raised my hand. No need for fairy tales, no excuses. I get it. Silence reigned in the corridor. A few patients turned their heads towards us, and I felt something within me switch. Years of humiliation, silence, patience. All of it suddenly transformed into a strange theatrical mood. "Darling," I addressed Emily. "Let me thank you." "Seriously." Emily blinked, her long eyelashes trembling. "Thank you for carrying my husband's child. It's so noble of you." "Performing the reproductive function that I failed to fulfill." "Christina, stop!" Barbara tried to restrain me, nervously glancing at other patients. "Why?" I grinned broadly. "Let's tell everyone about our family happiness." I turned to the people sitting along the corridor under the offices. "Everyone, meet," I announced theatrically. "This is Emily. She is carrying a child from my husband, and this is Barbara, my dear mother-in-law, who organized this wonderful scheme." The corridor became completely quiet, and Emily covered her face with her hands. Two women in medical scrubs paused, watching the unfolding drama with interest. "And now I'll call my husband," I continued, taking out the iPhone from my Prada bag. "Surely he'll be glad to hear about our meeting." I put it on speaker. The sounds seemed deafeningly loud in the corridor's silence. "Christina!" Michael's surprised voice responded. "Did something happen?" "Nothing special, dear," I replied with false nonchalance. "Just met your mom and your pregnant lover at the clinic. Want to say hi to them?" A long pause. All that was audible was labored breathing on the line. "Christina, listen, I'll explain everything." "No need," I interrupted him. "Emily is such a sweet girl. Her tummy is already large. 5 months maybe. Just around the time you swore fidelity to me on our anniversary in Paris." "You're misunderstanding. It's not what you think." Michael's voice turned sharp. "You yourself can't have a child." Those words slapped me like a blow, but I didn't let myself show the pain. "But I can file for divorce," I calmly replied. "Which I will do today. By the way, I found out something interesting last week. The fertility issues weren't just mine. Your sperm isn't perfect either, darling." Several people in the corridor couldn't hold back their laughter. An elderly lady in the corner even applauded. "Christina, I'm just asking. Don't do anything dumb," Michael shouted into the phone. "The only dumb thing I've done for the past 5 years is live with you," I replied. "But I'll fix that." I approached Emily, who still stood with her face covered. "Darling," I gently said, "you're very young, but I hope you realize that my husband is just using you." Emily raised tear-filled eyes, mascara running down her cheeks. "He promised to marry me," she whispered. "Marry you?" I was surprised. "That's funny. And he promised me fidelity. Seems he has issues keeping promises." Michael was still yelling something in the phone, but I was no longer listening. I announced to all those present, "Dear people, today you witness the end of one marriage and the beginning of a new life. The play is over." The corridor buzzed, and someone even began to applaud. The nurse watched wide-eyed, forgetting about her computer. "Barbara," I addressed my mother-in-law, "let your son know that his things will be waiting in the hallway, and I'll change the lock tomorrow." "Christina, I'm sorry," Emily quietly said, wiping her tears. "I truly didn't know he was married. He said he was divorcing." "I believe you," I nodded. "But now you know everything. Decide for yourself what to do with this information." I headed towards the exit, feeling admiring glances on me. For the first time in many years, I felt a strange lightness and freedom. Stepping outside, I took a deep breath of New York air. The sun was shining brightly, and even the noise of taxis and tourists felt like music. I dialed Michael again. "Listen, Michael," I said. "Lawyer Jason is already waiting for the documents. I hope you remember that half of the penthouse and your Porsche. They're all mine. And the money you spent on your girlfriend, I'll deduct from your share." "Christina, let's talk," he begged. "I'll explain everything. It was a mistake." 5-month mistake? Interesting concept, I smirked. "By the way, tell your mom, I guess I'll be ignoring her Christmas dinner invitation. Forever." That evening, Michael stood at the door of our penthouse with a suitcase in hand. The key didn't fit. The lock was indeed changed. I didn't wait until tomorrow as promised. Called the service immediately after the clinic, paid triple the price for urgency, and by lunchtime I already had new keys. He rang the doorbell. I watched him through the video phone, disheveled, with a loosened tie, eyes red from lack of sleep. Once that look would evoke sympathy from me. Now, just cold satisfaction. I opened the door slightly but didn't let him in. The chain remained in place, a symbolic barrier between past and future. "Christina, can we talk?" he asked in the same voice he usually used to calm clients before signing unfavorable contracts. "What is there to talk about?" I asked, crossing my arms over my chest. "About how you spent half a year taking me to doctors, convincing me the problem was me? Or about how you spent our family money on your mistress? Christina, you need to understand." He ran a hand through his hair. "I wanted a child, an heir, continuation of the Harrison line." "Then go to the one who's carrying him." I cut off. "Just warn her you'll demand a paternity test after the birth. Curious if the child is even yours." Michael turned pale so abruptly it was like I punched him in the abdomen. What do you mean?" "Nothing special." I shrugged. "Young women often have multiple partners, you know, and you naively believed you're the father." "Christina, wait. Let's talk seriously." He tried to wedge his foot into the doorway, but I was vigilant. "Let's talk seriously." I nodded. "Jason will bring the papers tomorrow for signing. And by the way, I'm keeping the surname. I like it more than you." I closed the door, but he kept pounding and ringing for about 15 minutes. I turned up the music. Beyoncé's Sorry seemed like the perfect soundtrack for the moment. When I finally checked the peephole, Michael had already left, leaving behind a scent of despair and Dior Sauvage. The following days went by in a fog. I changed my phone number, blocked Michael on all social networks, and met with Jason, one of the best divorce attorneys in New York. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, reviewing the documents in his office with a view of the Brooklyn Bridge, "you have a very strong position, especially considering the circumstances." He coughed delicately. "But be prepared for Mr. Harrison not to give up without a fight." "I don't expect an easy victory, Jason," I replied. "But I'm no longer that naive girl from Connecticut who believed in fairy tales of eternal love. I'm ready for war." Barbara called every day trying to influence the former daughter-in-law. I changed the number, but somehow she obtained the new one. "Christina, he's the child's father," she said into the phone with a voice full of fake sympathy. "Think about the baby who's not to blame." "Maybe," I replied. "But he's not my husband, and the child isn't mine either. What complaints could you have against me? I made room for a new family. Isn't that what you wanted?" I hung up and blocked that number too. The sun was shining outside, and ahead lay a new life. In memory were still the applause of those people at the clinic. The theater of one day was over. A new, true, different life had begun. A week later, I signed up for French courses, though my French was flawless, but I needed something to keep me occupied. Dyed my hair red and bought a new car, a red Mini Cooper, which I always dreamed of, but Michael considered unimpressive for a financial director's wife. I started going to the gym, signed up for yoga, and even tried dating through the Bumble app. The latter, though, turned out to be disappointing. Men either sought easy flirtation or talked about their ex-wives. But I wasn't in a hurry. I had a whole life ahead. One evening, as I returned from yoga, she was standing at my door, Emily. Her belly was even more noticeable, and her face was haggard and pale. "Christina," she said quietly, "can I talk to you?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to just walk past, but something in her eyes, desperation mixed with determination, made me stop. "5 minutes," I said, pointing to a bench near the entrance. We sat down. Emily nervously fiddled with her bag strap. "I left Michael," she blurted out. "After that meeting at the clinic? I couldn't anymore. He lied to me all this time. Said you're amid a divorce, that you're okay with it, that you..." She paused. "That you can't have children and want him to find another." I laughed bitterly. "And you believed him?" "Yes." She nodded. "I was such a fool. He seemed so sincere. Said he loves me, that we'd be a real family. And now? Now I'm staying at a friend's in Queens. Michael calls every day, begging to return. Says he'll fix everything, divorce you, and we'll be together. And what have you decided?" Emily raised tear-filled eyes. "I don't know. I'm confused. I love him, but how can I trust a man who so easily deceived both you and me?" I looked at this girl, young, beautiful, pregnant with my husband's child, and strangely felt no hate towards her, only fatigue and something akin to sisterly solidarity. "Emily," I said, "I can't advise you, but consider this. If he deceived his wife for 5 years, what stops him from deceiving you for 10? She nodded, wiping tears. "I know, but the child. I don't want my baby to grow up without a father." "Better no father than one like him," I said, harsher than I intended. "Sorry, it's not my business." "No, you're right." Emily straightened up. "I just wanted to say, I'm so sorry. And ask, do you really think the child might not be his? I looked at her frightened face and sighed. No, Emily, I said it to sting him. Judging by your reaction, you're not one to meet several men at once. Definitely not. She weakly smiled. I didn't even know he was married until... She fell silent. Until you met me at the clinic. I finished for her. Tell you what, let's go for coffee. Or in your case, herbal tea. I think we have a lot to talk about. We went to a small cafe on the corner and talked until closing. Turned out Emily was a talented artist from Nashville, moved to conquer New York. She met Michael at an exhibition where he was buying paintings for his company office. He charmed her, as he once charmed me. Expensive restaurants, compliments, promises of a bright future. You know what's the strangest? I said as we left the cafe. In another situation, we could have been friends. Why can't we now? Emily asked, with hope in her eyes. I pondered. Really, why not? 2 women, deceived by 1 man. We had more in common than it seemed at first glance. Maybe, I said. Let's exchange numbers to start. Just in case. 2 weeks later, Michael appeared at my door again. This time not with a suitcase, but a huge bouquet of white roses. My favorite. I opened the door but kept the chain. What do you want? I asked. To talk, he said. Christina, I made a terrible mistake. I realized it. I love you. Always have. And what about Emily? I asked. And the child? She left me, he said, genuine pain in his voice. Doesn't answer calls, doesn't want to see me. Mom says she moved, but not to where. I smiled to myself. Barbara didn't know Emily was now living in my guest room. After our cafe conversation, it turned out her friend from Queens couldn't keep her longer than a week, and I offered her a temporary refuge. And what do you want from me? I asked. A second chance, Michael said. I've realized everything. I was an idiot. This girl means nothing to me. It was a moment of weakness. I want to return to you, Christina. A second chance. I couldn't believe my ears. After everything you've done? Christina, people make mistakes. Michael stepped forward, but the chain on the door prevented him from entering. I got confused, thought I wanted a child at any cost, but now understand what's more important is you. We can adopt if you want, or find a surrogate. Like Emily? I crossed my arms over my chest. No, of course. He seemed genuinely indignant. I meant an official arrangement, through an agency, everything by law. I looked at him, the handsome, successful man I once married, dreaming of a happy life. Now he seemed to me a stranger, like an actor in a film I watched long ago. Michael, I said calmly. You don't understand. It's not about the child. It's about trust, respect, everything you destroyed. I can fix it all. He offered me the bouquet. Please, just give me a chance. And what does your mother think? I asked, not accepting the flowers. Does she also think we should be together? Michael hesitated. Well, she thinks I should take responsibility for the child, but it's my decision, not hers. The first time I hear you contradict your mother, I smirked. What changed? I changed, he said fervently. Christina, these 2 weeks were the worst of my life. I can't sleep, can't work. I realized losing you forever is unbearable. At that moment, a female voice sounded from deep within the apartment. "Christina? Who's at the door?" Michael's face changed. He turned pale, then red. "Do you already have someone?" His voice trembled with anger. I didn't have time to answer. Emily, in my silk robe, her hair wet after a shower, approached the door. "Oh," she said, seeing Michael. "Hi." Michael switched his gaze between me and Emily. His face expressed such shock that in another situation it might even have been comical. What's going on?" he finally managed to ask. You together?" Emily snorted. "Maybe in your imagination. Christina just helped me when I had nowhere else to go. Unlike you, she turned out to be a decent person." "You're living here?" Michael still couldn't believe his eyes. "With my wife?" "With your ex-wife," I corrected. "And yes, Emily is temporarily living here. She has a job saving for her own place." "This is surreal," Michael muttered. "You two, together against me? No one's against you, Michael," I sighed. "We're just trying to move on, and you should do the same." "But the child—" He looked at Emily's belly. "That's my child." "Biologically, maybe." Emily nodded. "But I don't want you to be my child's father, not after everything I learned about you." "You can't decide that." Michael raised his voice. "I have rights." "Which you can assert through court," I said calmly. "But for now, please leave. We have nothing more to discuss." "This isn't over," he said, retreating. "I'll fight. For you, Christina. For the child. For everything." When we closed the door, Emily leaned against the wall and exhaled. "God, he infuriates me. How could I ever fall in love with such a person?" "He's charming when he wants to be," I said. "Believe me, I know." We looked at each other and suddenly laughed, nervously but sincerely. The situation was truly absurd. Me and my husband's pregnant mistress against him. "You know," Emily said, wiping tears of laughter, "when I was little, my mom read me tales of wicked stepmothers and rivals. Never thought in real life things could be completely different. Life is always more complex than fairy tales." I nodded. "Come on, I'll make us tea. I think we both need to calm down." The next day, Jason, my lawyer, called. "Mrs. Harrison, we have a problem. Your husband hired Robert Klein." I whistled. Robert Klein was known as the divorce shark. A ruthless lawyer who won the most hopeless cases for his clients, usually wealthy men striving to keep their wealth during divorce. "And what does it mean for us?" I asked. "It means everything gets more complicated. Klein is known for his aggressive tactics. He'll dig into you, searching for any leverage to present you in an unfavorable light." "Let him dig," I said. "I have nothing to hide." "There's something else." Jason paused. "Mr. Harrison's filing a countersuit. He claims you're emotionally unstable and pose a threat to him." "What?" I nearly dropped the phone. "This is absurd." "Of course, absurd, but Klein will push on the incident at the clinic, saying you stalk his client, deny him access to his own home. It's our shared home. And I didn't cause any scenes, I just—" "I know, Mrs. Harrison," Jason said soothingly. "But court looks at facts, and there's a delicate issue with Miss Thompson. With Emily? What does she have to do with it? Mr. Harrison claims you manipulate her, turn her against him to deprive his access to the future child. I laughed. That's ridiculous. Emily chose to leave him. I had nothing to do with it. Yes, but the fact she's now living with you, it can look ambiguous, I pondered. Indeed, from the outside, our situation looked odd. Wife and mistress teamed up against the husband, like in some Brazilian soap opera. What do you propose? I asked. It would be better if Miss Thompson found other housing. Also, you should be very careful in public places. It's possible private detectives may follow, seeking evidence. Dear God, what have we come to? I sighed. Okay, I'll talk to Emily. When I told Emily about the situation, she turned pale. Has he really sunk so low? Hired detectives? This is standard practice in such cases, I said. But Jason's right. You better find other housing. I can help with money. No. Emily shook her head. You've already done too much for me. I'll call my aunt in Jersey. Maybe she'll let me stay with her for a while. Are you sure? I felt a strange sadness at the thought she'd leave. Over these weeks, I'd grown accustomed to her presence, to her laughter, her tales of life in Nashville, our evening chats over tea. Yes, it's better this way, she nodded. For all of us. And especially for my little one. She stroked her belly. I don't want him born amidst all this drama. Emily moved to her aunt in New Jersey the next day. The apartment immediately felt empty and too big for just me. I decided to occupy myself with work. For the first time in 5 years, I considered a career. Before marriage, I worked in a PR agency, organizing events for luxury brands. I loved that job. Dynamic, creative, meeting interesting people. But Michael believed a financial director's wife shouldn't work. You'll do charity, host receptions, uphold my image, he said. And I agreed because I loved him and wanted to be the ideal wife. Now looking back, I realized how much I lost by giving up my career, but it wasn't too late to change everything. I updated my resume, contacted old colleagues, went through several interviews, and 2 weeks later, I received an offer from a small but prestigious agency specializing in arts and cultural events. We've heard about your experience and taste, said Olivia, the agency's creative director. And we need someone to work with a new gallery in Chelsea. You'd be perfect. I started working with enthusiasm not felt for years. Every day brought new challenges, new acquaintances, new ideas. I organized exhibitions, parties, press conferences. My life filled with meaning and movement. One day, reviewing artist portfolios for an upcoming exhibition, I stumbled upon a familiar name, Emily Thompson. Her paintings, vibrant, emotional landscapes with elements of surrealism, were exactly what we were seeking for our New Horizons Expo. I unhesitatingly dialed her number. Emily? It's Christina. How are you? Christina! Her voice sounded cheerful. I'm good. Already 7 months, belly huge, but overall everything's great. And you? I'm working in a PR agency, organizing exhibitions. And guess what? I just saw your works. They're amazing. Really? Disbelief in her voice. It's just a hobby. It's not a hobby, Emily. It's real art. We want to include your works in our next exhibition. It could be the start of your career. A pause ensued. Are you serious? She finally asked. This isn't out of pity? Completely serious, I assured. I wouldn't risk the agency's reputation over personal ties. Your works truly are good. I don't know what to say. Her voice trembled. Thank you, Christina. This means so much to me. Don't thank me, I smiled. Thank your talent. How are things with Michael? Michael still insists on DNA tests and shared custody. Emily sighed. His lawyer calls weekly with new proposals, but I'm holding firm. And you? The war continues, I said. Michael's trying to prove I squandered family funds, that I'm emotionally unstable, that I paused. Had romantic affairs during marriage. What? That's a lie. Of course, a lie. But his lawyer's a real devil. He tries to portray me as a calculating bitch who married for money and then cheated on her husband. That's awful, Emily said. Can I help? Just stay in touch, I said, and get ready for the exhibition. It'll be your shining hour. The New Horizons exhibition opened in early October. The gallery in Chelsea was filled with critics, collectors, journalists, and art enthusiasts. Emily's works caused a genuine furore. 3 paintings sold on opening night, and renowned collector Jeffrey Bloom ordered a personal series for his new home in the Hamptons. Emily shone with happiness, despite her impressive 8-month belly. She was the star of the evening. In an elegant black dress, with her hair styled in a high bun, she appeared a true artist, confident in her talent. I can't believe this is happening, she whispered to me as we stood by the bar with non-alcoholic cocktails. Just 6 months ago, I was nobody. Just a girl from Nashville painting for herself. And now you're a rising star on the New York art scene, I finished for her. And this is just the beginning. At that moment, I noticed a familiar figure at the entrance. Michael. He wasn't alone. Beside him stood Barbara, his mother, in her signature pearl necklace and with an expression of superiority on her face. Oh no, I muttered. Not today. Emily followed my gaze and turned pale. What are they doing here? I don't know, but I'll find out soon. I resolutely headed towards them, trying to maintain a professional smile. After all, I was the event organizer and scenes were unacceptable. Michael, Barbara. I nodded. What a surprise. Didn't know you were interested in contemporary art. We heard about this exhibition, Michael said, assessing me with his gaze. Especially about the rising star Emily Thompson. I couldn't miss it. How nice of you to support the mother of your future child, I said with false sweetness, especially considering you ignored her calls the past 2 weeks. That's not true, Michael frowned. She isn't answering my calls. Maybe because she has nothing to say to you? Christina, Barbara intervened. We come in peace. Michael wants to congratulate Emily on her success, and perhaps discuss their child's future in a more constructive setting. Their child's future? I raised an eyebrow. You mean your grandson, whom you so eagerly wish to acquire? Don't be petty, dear. Barbara smiled her signature smile, which didn't touch her eyes. We're all adults. We can resolve everything civilly. I took a deep breath. She was right, as much as I hated to admit it. Public scenes won't help any of us. Fine, I said. But today is Emily's evening. No pressure, no arguments. If you came to congratulate, wonderful. If you have other plans, better leave. We just want to talk to her, Michael said. Promise, no scenes. I nodded and led them to Emily, who nervously watched us from afar. "Emily," I said, "Michael and Barbara want to congratulate you on your success." "Thank you," she said tensely. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Your works are amazing," Michael said, and sincere admiration echoed in his voice. "I always knew you were talented, but this surpasses all expectations." "Really?" Emily seemed surprised. "You never said you thought I was talented." I should have." Michael looked embarrassed. "Sorry for that. And for much more." Barbara cleared her throat. "Darling, you look wonderful. How are you feeling? Is the baby healthy?" "Yes, everything's fine," Emily nodded. "Doctor says development is normal." "That's wonderful," Barbara smiled. "You know, I was thinking, maybe we should leave the past behind? For the child's sake. I could help with preparations for birth, setting up a nursery." I saw Emily hesitating. Part of her likely wanted to accept this offer, have support, a family for her child. But another part remembered all the deceit, all the manipulations. "Thank you for the offer," she finally said. "But I'll manage on my own. I have friends who help." "Friends are wonderful," Barbara said with notes of condescension. "But a child needs family. Father, grandmother. A child needs people who'll genuinely love them," Emily firmly replied, "and not use them as a pawn in their games." Barbara appeared as if slapped across the face. "I never—" "Mom, please," Michael interrupted her. "Emily's right. I did many things wrong." He turned to Emily. "But I want to improve. I want to be part of our child's life. Not for myself or my mother, but for him alone." Emily regarded him closely. "You speak sincerely?" "Absolutely." Michael nodded. "I've realized much these months. About myself, my mistakes. I'm not asking you to return to me or even forgive me. I just ask a chance to be a father for our child." I watched this conversation with mixed feelings. Part of me wanted to shield Emily from further manipulations by Michael, but another part understood this wasn't my affair. It's their child, their decisions. "I'll think about it," Emily finally said. "But for now, if you don't mind, I need to return to my guests. It's still my exhibition." "Of course." Michael stepped back. "We won't bother you. Just call me when you're ready to talk." When they left, Emily exhaled. "God, that was tense." "Are you okay?" I asked, touching her arm. "Yes, just didn't expect him to be so sincere." "Do you think he's truly changed?" Emily pondered. "Unsure. Maybe. People change sometimes when they lose everything dear. Or pretend they've changed to regain what they've lost," I noted. "That too." She nodded. "But you know, despite everything, he's my child's father. I should at least hear him out. I understood her. Despite all the pain Michael caused, I couldn't deny there was good in him too. Maybe deep inside, beneath layers of ambition and fear of disappointment, he still was the man I once fell for." "What do you plan to do?" I asked. "I think I'll give him the chance to be a father," Emily said. "Not a husband, not a partner, just a father. With clear boundaries and rules. And you?" I pondered. Part of me wanted to continue fighting, prove my right, make Michael pay for all he did. But another part just wished to move forward, start a new chapter in life without bitterness and resentment. "I think I'll accept Barbara's offer," I finally said. Not for her or Michael, but for myself. I want to be free. From this marriage, from this feud, from the past. Emily smiled and held my hand. You know, when I first saw you at that clinic, I thought you were the scariest woman I've ever met. Now you're my best friend. Life's a strange thing, isn't it? Very strange, I agreed, squeezing her hand. But sometimes in the most unexpected places we find true friendship and support. Emily gave birth at the end of November. A healthy baby boy weighing 3.5 kilos, whom she named Jacob. I was with her in the delivery room, holding her hand as she screamed in pain, and cried alongside her when the doctor laid the tiny red bundle on her chest. Michael waited in the corridor. When the nurse came out to announce he had a son, he paled, then broke down in tears right there among other awaiting fathers. These were not the tears he shed publicly when trying to impress. These were real tears, uncontrolled, sincere. Barbara arrived an hour later with a huge plush bear and a basket of baby items. She looked older than I remembered. Chemotherapy took her signature energy and sparkle from her eyes. But when she held her grandson, her face transformed. "Hi, little Jacob," she whispered. "I'm your grandmother, and I'll love you all my life." I observed the scene from the room's corner and felt a strange peace. There was no jealousy, no bitterness, only acceptance that life goes on, embracing the most unexpected turns. Our divorce from Michael was finalized by Christmas. As promised by Barbara, everything went civilly. I received half of our assets, including the penthouse, which I decided to sell, and a generous compensation. Michael didn't contest anything, signing all papers without objections. "I want you to be happy, Christina," he said after signing the final papers. "You deserve it more than anyone." "Thank you," I replied sincerely. "I hope you find your happiness too, and become a good father to Jacob." "I'm trying," he nodded. "I learn every day to be better for him and for myself." 2 years passed. I moved to Brooklyn into a cozy loft overlooking Manhattan. My career in the PR agency flourished. I became a partner and launched a new direction specializing in promoting young artists. Emily was one of our first clients. After the success of that exhibition, her career rapidly took off. Solo exhibitions in New York, London, Paris, gallery contracts, interviews in art magazines. Little Jacob traveled with her, discovering the world from the earliest age. Michael turned out to be an unexpectedly good father. He spent every weekend with his son, read him books, took him to the park, taught him to throw a ball. He didn't try to return to Emily. Between them established respectful, amicable co-parenting relations. Barbara fought cancer longer than doctors predicted. She attended all important events in her grandson's life: first birthday, first steps, first words. She even managed to see his first day in kindergarten before the illness finally overtook her. She passed peacefully, in sleep, holding Michael's hand and with Jacob's photo by her bedside. As for me, I met David at a charity auction organized by our agency. He was an architect specializing in eco-friendly projects with kind eyes and infectious laughter. We began dating, taking our time, enjoying each moment of getting to know each other. A year later, he proposed. Without pomp and drama, just at breakfast on a Sunday as we sat on my loft's balcony, drinking coffee and watching the sun rise over Manhattan. "I want to wake up like this every morning," he said. "With you, if you want it too." I said yes, without hesitation, without fear, without doubt. Just yes. We married the following spring, a small ceremony at the botanical garden, only close friends and family. Emily was my bridesmaid, and little Jacob carried the rings, solemnly fulfilling his important mission. To my surprise, Michael was also on the guest list. Emily insisted on it, and I didn't oppose. He came with a new girlfriend, a sweet pediatric nurse named Sarah, who looked at him with genuine love. "Congratulations," he said when we met at the buffet table. "You look happy." "I am happy," I replied. "Seems we've all finally found our path, haven't we?" He nodded, watching Jacob, who ran between tables, pursued by a caring Emily. "You know, sometimes I think that everything happened as it should have. Had it not been for that meeting at the clinic, we'd still be living in lies." "Possibly," I agreed. "Sometimes the most painful moments lead to the most significant changes." That evening, as David and I danced our first dance as husband and wife, I glanced at the guests. At Emily recording everything on camera, at Jacob, asleep on Michael's lap, at my parents, who finally stopped worrying about my future, at new friends and colleagues who became part of my life. I thought about that strange, awful, and wonderful day at the clinic which changed everything. About how one event can overturn a whole life, break what seemed unalterable, and create space for something new, genuine. He promised me the whole world, but I discovered his second family in a gynecologist's office. What happened next changed my life forever. That phrase, which I once said in a magazine interview sharing my story, became a kind of motto. Not because I remain stuck in the past, but because it reminds, even in the darkest moments, light can arise. "What are you thinking about?" David asked, kindly holding me close during the dance. "About how strangely life is arranged," I smiled, "and how grateful I am for every twist that led me to you." He kissed me, and in that moment I knew my story is just beginning. And this time, I'll write it myself, with my own words, by my own rules, without illusions, but with hope, without fear, but with wisdom, and above all, with love. True, honest, mutual love, which I finally found. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.